I think we're good.
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay.
All right, guys. Welcome to another episode of Always Making. Thanks for joining us here in the studio again. Little housekeeping before we get into our guest here. Next tutorial video is out. You guys can go see Christy and I make some leather earrings on the YouTube channel as well. Episode 17. Let's get into it. Local artist, Creating Paisley. Thank you for joining us here on the show.
Hi. Glad to be here.
So we met almost a year ago now at one of our shows and picked up some of your pieces. And we just want to hear your story and kind of share with everyone watching how y'all got started with this.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's a long story. I always tell people I started making art when I could hold a crayon. So it goes back that far. Yeah, I started drawing, like I said, when I could hold a crayon, so probably 3 years old or younger. I don't really remember. But yeah, I started making art, started getting really into it throughout middle school and high school. And then I kind of just one day was like, I want to start selling it. And I decided my first place to sell it would be Fan X in Salt Lake, because why start small, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so at the ripe age of 15, I actually started a GoFundMe to afford my booth, because I was too young to even have a job at the time. But yeah, so I started the GoFundMe, made $200, put it down, got into the show at the age, and then just started going. Like, my dad helped me get prints made. I started a job just so I could afford to get like everything done. It's kind of just history since then. I've just been going because I loved it. I was hooked. Like that first Fan X, whatever year it was, 2019 was like life-changing. Yeah. That's when I kind of realized I was like, this is definitely something that I want to do for the rest of my life, and just been going since.
Yeah, we talk about it on the show quite a bit. It is kind of like a drug, a little bit of a high of that experience of being at a show, that adrenaline, and then getting your first sale at the show, and kind of that response of like, oh, wait, this is possible. Like people like what I do. Mm-hmm. Can you kind of share what that first experience kind of felt for you?
Yeah. I mean, I'll go to a specific experience that I really connect to a lot, and I think kind of pushes me to still create, is I had a little kid come up to me and ask, they were saying like, I've never seen anything Bug's Life anywhere, like I love a Bug's Life, will you draw me Flick? And I was like, yeah, of course I'll draw you Flick. And I gave her the drawing afterwards, and she started just bawling, like that's how excited she was. And I was like, wow, like even this small little thing, I've impacted someone's life. And I was just so happy. Like I'd go home every day. I wouldn't even count the money. I was just like, I just feel so fulfilled by this experience. Yeah, and like you said, after those first 3 days of Fan X, I went home and I was just like so sad, because I was like, I just want to do that all the time. Like now I have to go back to high school. Yeah, back to my sophomore year of high school, just regular times. But yeah, it was just. Yeah, like I said, it was hooked.
That's so sweet. I got like chills hearing that story.
Yeah,
very sweet.
No.
I'm doing the math in my head, and you said 2019, sophomore. Oh my God, you're so young compared to us.
Yes, I am 20, freshly 20.
How do you get the confidence as an artist to go and pursue something like Fan X, which for you guys who don't know, Fan X is the local comic book convention. It brings in anywhere from about 75,000 to 100,000 attendees. And there's, I think it's 4,000 vendors, I think is what I remember, like statistic was.
Something like that.
Don't quote me, but
It's big.
It's big. And so at what you were 15 when you did your first show.
Yeah.
Where did the confidence for that come? Like
delusion. yeah, pure delusion. I don't know. I think I had been very external voices were coming and giving me confidence, I guess. Like I'm lucky to have very supportive parents, and I had a wonderful art teacher throughout middle school into high school, and I just kind of, I don't know. I felt it deep within myself that I could do it. And then I also, going to Fan X, I didn't see myself represented in what was being sold in like Artist Alley. I was like, oh, I'm such a nerd, but I wouldn't hang any of this in my house. So I just started drawing it myself. Like, it's okay if this Star Wars art's gonna be a little more girly, or if it's gonna have like a pink background with BB-8. So I think that was kind of gave me confidence too, was like, I know that there's an audience for this because I am my own audience. Yeah, but long story short, delusion, really. Like, I really went in so just
well, clearly,
blind.
you know, you had talent because it has worked out and you have continued doing markets and selling your art. So
yes, yeah.
Maybe some naivety,
Yeah,
but
yeah, maybe
absolute
ignorance.
talent.
Yeah, that's true.
Was there ever the voice, because we talked to other artists on the show and we talked to other makers, was there ever the voice of like, you had to overcome to that step to do it? Like, because most people kind of, the biggest hurdle I think a lot of people is just getting started. Mm-hmm. And was there ever that like time where you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this? Is that ever crossed the mind?
Oh yeah, it comes up all the time, and I think it's really hard to, as I get older, and I start to kind of like riot against corporation too. It's hard to run a business and, you know, have that in the back of your mind. Even as an artist, like, it's hard to monetize something that you're so passionate about. So I think that's what breaks me down a lot. And that's when I have to tell myself, like, you love doing this. You're not doing this to, you know, like, make millions of dollars. You're not, you know, stealing from people. But, yeah, I feel like that's my main hurdle. It's weird that it's not, like, artistic wise, it's based off of the monetization of my talent. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, when I first started, I think the hurdle was, like I said, money. Like, I had to start a GoFundMe. But I've always been very like small business minded, I guess. Like, I ran a slime shop and when in like 6th grade and stuff like that. So I kind of just like, I knew I had the tool belt. I just needed to actually like use the tools. So
I think there is something to that, though, and we've kind of talked about it a little bit before too, about how do you value your own art, your own work. And I do actually remember the first market that we did together when we met you. I remember looking at your art on your table, and I think I even told you, like, you're not charging enough. Like, you need to charge more for these.
Yeah,
which we did end up trading some art for some custom toe caps, which was awesome. Yes. We love doing trades, but no, I do think I remember being like, you could charge more for these.
Yeah, that's something I definitely get a lot, and I just think, and then my response is always, I want art to be accessible, and I think that is a big part of my business practice. Like, I am a young, starving artist, and, but I still want people to be able to purchase my art, and even if it is a sticker, they can say, like, oh, I have a piece of art that is mine, and that's why I keep my prices low.
We have a very similar kind of, like, philosophy of what we do, because we do everything here in-house as much as we can. There are some things we do outsource just because we don't have the know-how of how to do certain things. Yeah. But when it comes to, like, we love to see our piece of art go into someone's house and it maybe brings that little like bit of happiness to them. Mm-hmm. And if it's $10 that they can afford here, like, enjoy it, have fun. Exactly. We enjoyed creating it, and if we can share it with others, it is something that, like, yes, would I love to have $1 million for an art piece? Yes, that'd be great. But it's not, like, art is a completely different thing, and it's a pursuit of happiness, and it's super awesome to hear at such a young age you have kind of discovered that. I had a very similar thing through high school where I knew going into college I wanted to pursue creative outlets. I didn't know where I was going to go, what it was going to be. I went from, like, didn't quite know, but, like, my freshman year, I discovered a fashion class and really fell in love with sewing and making with my hands and wanted to pursue costume design. And then senior year, we went into broadcast. I met Christy in broadcasting class and got other cameras in my hand. I always played with cameras and film cameras, but never video cameras. Mm-hmm. So then it turned into, ooh, what if I can get into, like, movie making and videos and all this other stuff. So then I started discovering all the stuff that happens behind the scenes of set building and like the props, and I fell in love with all of that. I thought for the longest time I'd start a non-profit prop house in LA that like lower independent filmmakers could come and like use props for their films, and then like I'd go to thrift stores and buy random stuff, but I've always wanted to pursue the creative stuff, and like finding other artists and someone as young as you are pursuing that same thing is really uplifting for all of us out there to see that it's possible. It is capable of being done. You just kind of have to find your voice, and it seems like you've done a pretty good job of, hey, FanX didn't have what I want on my walls. I'm going to make it, and people have kind of discovered what you're doing.
Yeah.
How do you go about like finding that inspiration for what you create?
Yeah. Oh, that's a hard question because I get it from everywhere. I think going back to like what I said and you just repeated about FanX not having stuff that I liked, I make sure everything I'm creating is for myself, even if I'm gonna be like mass producing it. So like I won't draw fan art of a show I've never watched. Like I draw that line there. If someone asks for a commission of something that I've never watched, I'll say no, sorry, like I don't know that source media. So that's a big thing for me is, I guess, just staying true to myself, and first of all for inspiration. But yeah, I find a lot of pop culture. I love pop culture, anything. I'm really big into like 60s, 70s, kind of also mid-century stuff too. A lot of inspiration there. A lot of inspiration from the outdoors. I am always outside, so I think we can find a lot of inspiration from like organic things. I guess like with my style, I say is very organic and very loose, and I think I get that a lot from like studying nature and just being outside too. But yeah, long-winded answer, I guess.
No, that's okay. I will say we're in the same boat.
Yeah,
like a lot
absolutely.
of the hobbies, Christy's skate stuff came from her skating, and like we needed something to do skate. A lot of the drawings and arts that I do is all stuff that inspires me. Like the sticker on my thing is Star Wars, and I'm a Star Wars nerd. Like that's the reality of what it is. The piece, one of the pieces we have on the wall from you is our droids.
Yep.
And but we found a common bond in the fandoms that we enjoy and the inspiration that is part of our lives that helps drive that. You are, it's still like boggling my mind that you are only 20 and with all this experience. At 15, when you were setting up a booth, let's get into kind of the market side of what you're doing. What was the thought process, and like what has changed for you now that you've had multiple years of actually selling?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy because my booth setup actually hasn't changed that much in the past 5 years. It's kind of just evolved. So I remember my booth neighbor, the first FanX I did, said like, "Oh, your setup looks like a little kid's lemonade stand." And I was like, I'm gonna take that as a compliment. Like, I don't think they meant it as a compliment, but I was like, yeah, I mean, I am kind of a child here, so makes sense. But
embrace it.
Yeah, exactly. So with my booth setup, I think, and there's probably pictures out there of it, but it looks like, I always say it looks like a troll just like threw up on a table, and that's like what has been left. But that's like purely my aesthetic. Like, it's definitely like what my room looks like is what my booth looks like, and what I wear looks like my booth. And so I keep that. That's like important to me. But so back at 15, I was just doing like so much research on Pinterest, just looking at like how do we even start with this? But we got some piping, like we were using PVC pipe. Is that what it's called? Yeah. And we made just like stands, and we were hanging my prints on it, and like I had stickers out. I was giving dum-dums to little kids, and just trying to have fun. And honestly, like, this is something I actually want to work on, but a lot of my booth is just fun, like has decor, and it doesn't really highlight my art, but I think it brings people in. And it's unique, and I hear it a lot because it's interesting, and I don't want to dog on any other makers, but I feel like a very popular thing right now is like beige and minimalism, and when you're walking in a market and you see that just like my booth, I think it draws people in, and then they're able to look at the art and they're like, oh yeah, you're actually good, it's not just like putting it on display. But yeah, I don't even know, did that even answer the question?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I think we kind of run into a similar opposite where, like, you're right, there's a very like minimalist sort of trend, which is great for highlighting product, but it can feel kind of bland after a while, especially when you see multiple booths like that. And our booth, I think a lot of people kind of like walk past our booth and then like stop and they're just like, oh, this is different. Like they just kind of have to stop and look like, oh, what am I even looking at? So, you know, there's something to that too. Even if it's just to like catch people's eye for a moment, you know, you might stick out in their mind.
Yeah. Oh, I've had a lot of people remember me because of my booth. And just random example, but for this last Craft Lake City, I made a backdrop out of paper chains, and I had a lot of people come back around for Fan X because I did the same backdrop, and they're like, I totally remember your backdrop just because it was so like unique. And then they were like, yeah, because I also like have a sticker of yours on my water bottle or like on my bumper, which that one's crazy.
It's such a great feeling, like when you have a repeat like customer or a repeat person. You're like, oh, you were over here. I'm like, oh, you remember us?
I know, yeah, it's crazy. Like, I think I came home after the first day of Fan X this last year, and I was like, I'm like a little micro celebrity. Like, people remember me. It's kind of crazy. Yeah.
We had when we went to a roller derby, one of the people that was working the roller derby, she like we gave her our tickets and she goes, oh my god,
she's like, it's you guys.
We're like, who? You guys who? And she's like, I have your shirt. And she like, I was like, I had to put my uniform on, but here. And she had it.
She was,
I was like,
wearing
oh,
it.
what? I'm like, oh wow.
I fangirled over like her fangirling over us. We were like, oh my god.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But it is such a cool feeling, like that you've been doing it for so long. Then you have that repeat person come back, or like, hey, I remember you. You were over here, and kind of stuff. Christy loves going through the kids alley at Craft Lake City and seeing all the young, I think it's under 12.
The kid row, yeah.
Kid row that they do. And so being 15, I'm still caught up on this.
I know, it shocks a lot.
Let it go, Derek.
Really, but what I really want to do is there's potential of like younger kids that are right in that same high school age or maybe even younger that don't know how to go about doing what you've done and now continuing to pursue what you've done. What is something you like kind of held to that like could potentially help someone like overcome that fear of trying something like what you've done? Like, sorry, I'm lost for words. Trying to get to that next step for them.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I got to think about this one.
Take your time.
I still just like, I hate to say it, but raw dogging it. Like, I've been doing it for 5 years, and I still feel like I show up to markets, and they're like, "You're not supposed to be here," and I'm like, "Oh, sorry, I am doing this." Okay, it's just, for people starting out, I just always like, this is the worst piece of advice, but I always just say, like, just do it. Like,
you are not alone when you say that. Everybody we have says the exact same thing. Like, just do it.
I know, and I know it's so easier said than done, but I think the people that are successful are because they just did it and they just keep doing it. And I also think another piece of that advice is authentically just do it. Like, do not hide anything. If you're going to be sharing your art, you're already at that. You've already passed a threshold of vulnerability.
You're very vulnerable putting yourself out there.
So don't just keep going with that. Like, be yourself, be your truest self. And I think, like I said, it's easier said than done. And it's taken a lot of work for me to be able to be authentic with my art and like the way I present myself as a business owner, too. But I think that's what can keep you going, and then also keep people coming back to you in that same sense.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree. I think we've said it before as well. I feel like people will, even if they're just walking by, can tell I don't know if it's a vibe that gets given off or what, but I feel like people can tell when you're being genuine, when you're being authentic, there's something there. And even more importantly, when you're being true to yourself and being authentic, you'll attract other people who have the same interests as you. And you'll find your audience, you'll find your crowd. And that really is how you'll grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to think the pie that's out there and the slice that we all want to take is there's so much out available. It's like you saw our wall is filled with a variety of art. We find the different artists that we love, and there's plenty of artists we walk by and we appreciate what they do, but it's just not what we want to express ourselves with. And so, but they find their people, and that's okay too. For future. Well, no, let's not even get into that yet. Going into your portfolio, seeing the different mixed mediums that you do. You've worked with markers, crayons, colored pencils, paint, photography, digitally. What is the tool that you like going with the most?
Oh, gosh.
Do you have a favorite?
Yeah, do you have a favorite?
My favorite tool is color, I'll say.
Okay.
I know that's not really a tool, but I love color. Yeah. But other than that, my favorite, once again, vague, mixed media. I love mixing anything. Something I've been really into recently is marker with colored pencil on top. I feel like it's just really vibrant and fun, and you can get a lot of textures. But as I've been going and studying art in college, I've been kind of diving into a lot of media that I've never really touched, like a lot of very tactile media. So I've been loving that too. I love adding fabrics and felts and pom-poms and whatever else that's gonna, I don't know, I love texture. So whatever's gonna add texture, I will just throw on anything. But with my business, I do a lot of digital drawing just with Procreate and an iPad and an Apple Pencil. And to be completely honest, I have the cheapest iPad and the oldest Apple Pencil, and Procreate, the software, is $10. So if it's money holding you back from doing digital art, that's another one where I'm like, just do it. Just start getting into it.
Yeah, but I don't have the latest and greatest iPad. I don't have the biggest pro version out there either. Christy in the same boat. It is not as artists, we sometimes always feel that we need to have the right stuff before we get started.
Best of the best.
And it's so not true. Our cameras that we use to film, our microphones we use for all this is not the latest and greatest stuff. It doesn't need to be, but the stories and the passion that comes through all of this is what is genuinely behind the art. And like you said, just do it. Yeah. And I've talked to plenty of people who are like, how'd you get started? It was a $300 iPad, and I think I got my pencil used for $50 on eBay.
Yeah. That's real.
It's and it's okay, $350 is not always the cheapest and obtainable thing, but if it's something you really want, work for it. And I mean, you did a GoFundMe for your start. Yeah. It is doable for people out there to find resources and pursue that. And you might hit hurdles. You might come up against a wall or something, but you gotta just keep pushing through. With let's talk a little bit more about the markers and colored pencils, the technique. Yeah. Is it alcohol ink markers? Is that what you're using? And so is it, how do you get started? Let's start with that.
That's a great, how do I get started? To always start, I always have to listen to music. I know that's not part of a step, but I am always listening to music. So I turn on some music, and I, a lot of the times, don't sketch, which surprises a lot of people. I just go in with marker and kind of do color blocks. So yeah, if anyone's bought an original of mine that's just marker and color pencil, there probably wasn't a sketch under it. It's just freehand. So yeah, I just go in with the colors, and then I'll go on top with colored pencil. Usually, I don't even use Prismacolor. They're just genuinely Crayola colored pencils that I just have found that I like the texture of their lead the best. And I just go on top and add more detail through that. And then I'll use acrylic paint for highlights and stuff just to add even more pops of color. But it's kind of what I do. That's kind of what my sketchbook looks like a lot too, is just those colors. But I just, it's all over the place. That's usually what I do when I'm making originals for markets and stuff, or illustrations for classes. But
Do you find yourself gravitating towards a specific color palette? Like, is that part of your specific style?
yeah, very warm. I'd say I definitely gravitate towards warm colors. Like I'll never use black. I always use like a dark brown usually. Just color theory stuff, you know. Working with limited palettes is also very nice, I guess. I like to do. And like as I mentioned, I really like mid-century and like 60s too. So I'll actually look at like a lot of wallpaper from the time and kind of use those as color palettes as well. But yeah, I think the best example of like a warm piece I've done is the Fantastic Mr. Fox, actually, just because I mean that is the movie is so warm.
Yes,
so
yeah.
like
Oranges and golds and
yeah,
browns.
yeah. But that's definitely something I gravitate towards is warm colors, funky color palettes that I somehow just try to make work. But
You said you've had an art teacher that helped influence a lot of the stuff that you did. Do you find that classically trained, or classical training that you get from art classes helped to not go through the sketch process? Or is it kind of like just your own style and we're like, you kind of reformed against the classical style and said, you know what? Because I'm in the same kind of boat. I don't really sketch. I kind of just see what happens. Mm-hmm. I use a reference photo. A lot of times I could take photos and use the stuff for what I do, but I don't necessarily go down the rabbit hole of traditional art styles when I am inspired by stuff. Is it similar to you, or was it the classical stuff really helped you find the confidence to just kind of find your voice this way now?
Yeah. I'd say both, honestly. I think I'm a big art history nerd, so I think we can always learn from people of the past of what they've done and what they've learned. Like, I love Impressionism. I don't think that shows a lot in my art, but I like to think like, I learned how to use these strokes and colors and kind of organic movement through Monet or Van Gogh or people like that. But I also just go for it. Like, never really been good at perspective or like figure drawing, or still getting there, obviously, but
Hands are hard.
Hands are hard.
Hands are hard.
Hands are hard. I definitely am one of the people that draw like the Adventure Time.
I love the cartoon hand. It's like, it's like cartoon hand, easy. Here you go.
Well, back to the question. I don't even remember. I just started rambling.
That's okay. That's what we're doing here. We're having a conversation.
Yeah. But with the classical training stuff, it's definitely good to have a baseline. And I think once, like that saying, once you learn the rules is when you can start breaking them. Yeah. So I think once you start learning those rules, you're going to get better. But you're always learning new rules, and then you're constantly like, well, how can I break this one now? Or how can I, like you learn anatomy so you can draw weird anatomy. Usually the characters I draw have really long limbs and like really bony arms, but like I know that's not what people look like. That's just what I want my people to look like and stuff like that. So, but I did have to take time to learn how to draw them correctly, or else even the weird stuff you draw is going to look weird in a non-intentional way, I guess. Yeah, I don't even know if that answered the question, but
So do you feel like you've seen your art style sort of develop or evolve over the years since you've started your first market?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just as you grow, I think it's hard to describe how it's evolved because it's still very similar. Like I feel like you could see, if you looked at my art the past 5 years, you can kind of see the evolution. But it's like I said, as I get more classically trained, I'm able to break those rules, but the skill comes up a little bit more. Like I'm learning better how to do shading, or I'm better at making more thorough environments in my illustrations and stuff like that. So I think that has kind of been the evolution. But I've always had people tell me very similar things about my art style. Like it's very eclectic, very like colorful and unique. So I've always gotten that. And I think that stays still. Like I have a certain way I draw my eyes, and I think a lot of people know that. I just do a dot with like a little squirrel around it, and some kids are like, that's terrifying, and then other people are like, I love it. So that's definitely a big part too, is like, this sounds so dumb, but like my eyes are part of the style. But
yeah, I mean, finding your voice. I mean, that's reality, and like you'll continue to grow, and those key things will continue to be you in your own art form. The iPad coming into play, it seems like your earlier work was all kind of traditional media. How has the iPad and the iPad Pencil and Procreate allowed you kind to, like, your next step in your evolution?
Yeah, it's actually been kind of a recent thing. I've been really into combining both. Such a cute noise. Combining analog and digital together. So like creating pieces physically and then scanning them and then taking it into Procreate and even furthering it, like accentuating the colors, everything like that. And that's something I've actually been learning in one of my classes recently through the U. But yeah, to start, when I first started with my iPad, it's definitely a learning curve. Like, and I'll even say still, I use Procreate as like a piece of paper. Like, I do not use all the fancy things. I just draw on it, and the most crazy thing I use is different layers. So like, I'm still even a beginner in it, and I've been using it for like 5 or 6 years. So
yeah, it was kind of a cheat code for me when I got it, because I've been using Photoshop and Illustrator for 15 years maybe before I got the iPad. But once I got that, like, the layers really did help. I don't use a lot of different brushes. I use kind of a studio pen is kind of my favorite thing to go with. I just like a clean line just because I like vector art for a lot of my stuff. But also because of the screen printing background, vector art is the cleanest for screen printing. But it has been a thing where I love the iPad and Procreate because I can do quick work, but I will take that like graphic or art piece, and when I screen print it, it's a completely different piece because you get the imperfections of fabric, imperfections of ink layout, all the different things. And I really do love that it's not pure clean. Like, I print a bunch of stuff on our printers and it's great, and people buy all wall art, but I love that same piece when I screen print it so much more because my hands are in it, that tactile feeling you talk about. Let's get into, have you run into any, like, I guess with the college class and getting more into a little bit, I don't want to say higher level because that doesn't necessarily mean anything with art, but like, I guess that classical training, have you kind of run into like where you kind of push back and like, no, this is my style, this is what I want to keep doing? Or is it a little bit more open to like, okay, let's try these things out? Yeah.
I mean, it was really hard. So I guess I'll tell backstory. At the way the University of Utah does it through their studio art degree, your first 2 semesters, you're kind of doing all art, like sculpture, film, painting, sketching, everything. You just get like a layout. And it was really hard for me to go in as someone that has a pretty like predetermined style and having to like change it through these mediums was really, really difficult because that's something I had never been challenged to do before. And I think it wasn't until actually last fall where I realized like, oh, I can integrate like my style and my creative process into these things. Like, I did a wire sculpture and I was like, how am I gonna make this paisley? Like, what? Like, it's just wire. And I just ended up making like a headpiece that I wrapped my hair around and just made me look like one of my own characters. So I think like as I'm learning these new skills and these new mediums and like getting more classically trained, I'm able to kind of incorporate what I already know. And it's, I think once I let myself go and realize like, hey, I can make whatever I want, even in this like setting, it's been great. Like, I feel like I was holding myself back my first semester of college. And then once you let go, you're kind of just like, yeah, I'm here. And that's what's going to make you stand out too, to professors and I don't know, other people that are watching, I guess. But
guys, as you guys know, newborn, it is one of those things. Juniper got her voice out there on the podcast. Christy has stepped out to kind of settle her back down and hopefully get her back on the episode. But we want to continue this conversation here with you, Paisley, and it has been awesome so far with this conversation and on honestly a lot of things we didn't know. And that's the best part about these podcasts and these conversations is we learn so much about you than just what we know from meeting you at a booth. I want to get back into the market side of things a little bit. Since 5 years now of doing markets, what are some of the things you've kind of come across that have maybe made it a little harder for you with the markets, and like maybe some tips that got you past that maybe viewers out there might benefit from?
Yeah. Okay. So, there's a lot of hard stuff when you're doing markets. I don't think a lot of people realize, like, when you're doing something on a small scale, you are your own everything. Like, I am my own manager, my own maker. I get everything produced. I sign up for the markets. I get all the taxes paid. Like, I'm my own accountant. Like, learning all this stuff at a young age that's the first hurdle, is like figuring out like how to actually do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the next hurdle is actually being successful at doing it and kind of figuring out your audience. And I guess that was kind of a hard thing for me, is figuring out what markets I'm actually going to be good at. And I think even in these 5 years of me doing this, there's a lot of markets. Like, there's a boom right now, especially. And it's hard to not sign up for every single one that there is, because you'll learn that not every single one is going to be successful, and you kind of just have to like figure out what to do. Like, I don't do central checkout markets. I used to, but I learned I have to be there. Like, I have to be the one to be selling my art. And
so just for viewers out there, and I think I don't know either, what's a central checkout market?
Central checkout market is a market where you it's like consignment.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you set up the booth and then you leave. And okay.
And then so the central checkout part is like people grab a few stickers from different artists, and then they go buy it at like just like a regular store. Like I don't know if I'm allowed to name drop, but like Salt and Honey is a central checkout market. I just don't do good at those, and it took me a few months of actually like having losses to figure out like hey, like I don't know why, but I just cannot do central checkout, so I don't do those. And I actually get asked a lot like, hey, we'd love to have your product in our store, but you have to pay $100 a month, and we're taking 20% of that. So when your products are only $10 max, that's really hard, because I don't want to raise my prices, and I don't know. But yeah, so that was definitely a learning curve too.
And with that, like learning curve, have you shifted more that in person, or are you just kind of like, okay, I'm just going to kind of stick with this amount for the year? Let's put it this way. Do you have a set amount that you try to plan for the year to be at, or it's kind of, hey, this new market popped up, let's see this one and see how it goes?
It's kind of just whatever. Like I said, I love doing it, so I'll try it out. And I usually make my booth feedback at least like whatever market I do, which I'm very grateful for that. Like, like that's a privilege in itself, is to make your booth feedback. I'll try out any. And I think last year was my biggest year. I think I probably did 10 or 12 markets, which isn't even that big, but I think that was kind of my first year.
It's about once a month at least, giving it a go kind of thing. And so
and you're working full time, you're going to school full time. It's a lot. But I'll get a lot of random times where people are like, come join this market, and sometimes it'll be weird. You're like, where am I showing up to? Like, is there gonna be people here? Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. But yeah, that's definitely like, I'd say the learning curve is figuring out where you're wanted and where your audience is gonna be.
It is very interesting, and it is one of those things we had to discover as well with the stuff we do. And yeah, you don't know what's going to do well. And we had the conversation before the cameras were rolling. We have a very eclectic amount of things that we make and sell, and it kind of helps when we do these random shows that so and such product does better here. But we kind of have to learn, and we're still figuring it out. We've been doing this now 3 years now of selling at markets and trying to figure out, okay, maybe we don't do this one, or hey, we adjust for that. What is kind of, I guess, that criteria of like for you when making that decision, oh, I'm going to do this market again, or I'm not going to do this market and maybe try something else? How do you go about choosing?
There's a few things I look for when I go to a market, and it's firstly the audience that's being attracted to the market. So my product is definitely very family friendly, very youth oriented. So if I'm at a place where there isn't going to be a lot of kids, or there isn't a lot of families that are going to be there, I'm probably not going to be as successful. So I kind of look at that. But I also, like, this is going to sound so dumb, I like fill off the vibes. Like, I'm a very, like, am I in a safe space? Am I, like, are the people around me kind? And are the people that are running the market, like, actually in it for good? Or are they in it to make money off of these people? So I look for that. And then for money, why, like, selling my own product, I guess, I try to see, like, do I fit in here? Like, I'm not going to sell at the urban flea market in downtown Salt Lake because people are there to buy clothes. I am going to sell at a Comic-Con because I make fan art. Like, that's what's going to happen. I'm not going to sell at a fine arts gallery because I am not creating fine art, one-of-a-kind
pieces. Let's say yet.
Not yet. I'd love to one day. But at my current time, I'm not going to, because I've tried before and it just didn't work out. And I was like, okay, that's okay. Like, I'm not there yet. But yeah, that's kind of the criteria I look for. And also just like how well I did. Like, if I barely broke even, I'm usually not going to go back to that market just because, unless I like loved it there. Yeah. And
there is for us in the same sense. It's like, if it's okay, it's not a great like profit for us, but the vibes were right, we'll be back.
Yeah,
because it could be a slow weekend, you never know. But the people that are there, the crowd that comes through, they're appreciative of what you're doing, and like that kind of goes just as far as if they didn't buy anything, or if they did buy something.
Yeah.
Do you scout out like some of the shows? Like, we like to attend. Before we did Craft Lake City the first time, we went to it and attended it and just kind of saw what it was about. And we both said we want to be here next year, and so that was one of our goals. And we didn't know what we were doing when we but we did it.
That's a big one.
It worked. But do you tend to go to a lot of like shows not as a seller and kind of see, and then maybe make the decision of like, oh, I'm gonna try this one out maybe next time?
Yeah, for sure. I do that a lot, and I think that's also, like, I go just to support local makers too, not even just to scout out the markets. But yeah, I do that a lot, and just to make sure, like I said, is the vibe right? Like, am I gonna fit in there? Like, because, you know, I'm young, I'm spunky. Like, am I gonna fit in with these people that are selling here, or am I gonna be like, not reprimanded, but, you know, like, get side eyes or anything? Because that's not ideal. But yeah, I feel like that's important. That's an important step.
Future of Creating Paisley. Where do you want to see? Let's throw the big question out there. 5 years from now, where do you want to see Creating Paisley?
That's a great question. Not in Utah. I just say that. Hopefully not in Utah. I really want to go to one of the coasts. So maybe nationwide. Who knows? Probably not in Salt Lake anymore. Hoping to do a lot more media stuff. Like, so going back, I started making art under the name of Drawing Paisley, and then I changed it to Creating Paisley as a way for me to kind of distance myself from drawing, but include everything. And so I guess in the next few years, I kind of want to push more into that. Also, as I get older, I think my art starts to get a little more mature and a little more hard to digest. And I think I want to keep doing that. Like, I would love to, like I said, being authentic is very important to me. And I think as I get older, life starts to get a little more challenging, and that's being represented in my art. And I'd love to, sounds bad, I'd love to monetize that. I'd love to monetize the challenges of life through my artwork.
Well, that's fair. It's relatable.
Yeah. So that's a vague answer, but I'm just such a person that lives week to week, hour to hour. So thinking of the next, I'm just like, where's it gonna go? But yeah, like we kind of mentioned, I'd love to have a gallery show. Like, I'd love to have my own opening, and just kind of furthering my artistic endeavors.
I will say, for people out there who, you mentioned, like, you've tried the gallery thing and it wasn't the right fit, there are galleries out there, guys, that are designed for eclectic artists. Let's put it that way. And you just have to find them. One of our ones we love supporting is Lost Acorn Gallery. They do so much variety of stuff. We've done a few shows, vending shows with them. We haven't actually done art shows with them, but I see all the different artists that come through there, the variety of different stuff, and finding, again, your people, finding the right click and niche for you is key when you're out there going, I wouldn't put myself in art galleries in Park City. Not my crowd.
Slightly different.
I love some of the art that's up there. It's beautiful pieces. And there was a collage artist that was there a couple months back when we were up there. And great pieces, but I'm also not going to buy a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 piece of art.
Not there yet.
I don't know if we'll ever be, like, in the sense that we want to spend for that. I love this type of art that's here. I love the stuff that we get at the Fan X's, that we get at Craft Lake Cities, and those kind of pieces are awesome. And I think there's a lot of passion and heart and soul behind, like, a print, a small thing, and efforts that go into it. Projects wise, are you working on anything like new for the new year coming in? We are starting off this year, and we getting into show season where it's going to ramp up pretty quickly. Is there some new projects coming down the line?
Yes, I'm kind of actually working on a revamp right now of the business, of the aesthetic of like my logo, getting new pieces out that'll be printed. I'm working on a Wes Anderson one right now, per usual. And I'm actually have been for a while been working on a children's book. Last year I kind of soft launched the characters as a print, as a sticker, and the general public loves it. So I was like, okay, I think it's time to
Very cool.
like actually start doing that. So that's kind of where my mind is at right now, writing and illustrating that. But also kind of back to what I was saying, this year I really want to just make art that maybe it's not as digestible for other people, but it's me, and I think putting that in markets, and I just kind of want to see like how it does. Like if I put something out that's a little more political, or if it's a little more edgy, like, is it gonna be okay, or is that gonna push the customer base that I have right now away? But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at for this year. Staying steady, and then also adding on. But yeah.
Going forward, for other artists that are in a similar boat as you, getting started, trying to figure out that next step, what is some advice you might want to leave them to potentially pursue what you're doing?
Gosh, I'm not good at giving advice, because I just like I said, I just do whatever comes to mind. I'm like, yep, that's great. That works.
Well, let's put it this way. What's some advice that maybe some of the people around you have given to get you to where you are now?
Believe in yourself, I guess.
Right, fair.
Once again, a cheesy one, but believe in yourself. And I think something I've been working on too is like just trusting your intuition. Like, if you feel that something's right, it's probably because it is right. Like, if this is your calling, you'll figure that out. And if it's not, it's not. And that's okay. Like, some people, I think realize early on that they love this, and then some people realize like, maybe I don't want to monetize this passion that I have. Yeah, I think like what we've been talking about, find your audience and don't give up. I guess two points. Even though I was saying like give up a second ago, but yeah, give up. If you don't do good, give up.
But it is one of those situations that it is not for everybody. It is one of those lifestyles. We have passion and things that we do behind the camera that we do not want to monetize. We do not want to try and make for... It's our own happiness that we are able to do besides everything else we create. But it also, like, when you're doing these kind of things, don't get frustrated, guys out there, that you might not have a great first show. It might not be the right show for you. It might not be the right venue. Try a few different things and give it an honest go. Like that's the reality. 5 years is a good honest go, and you're really continuing.
Yeah. Oh no. But yeah, I had a conversation with a kind of new vendor into the Salt Lake vending scene, I guess, and she was having a really hard time because she was like, I haven't made any sales, and I was like, well, you're selling $80 candles at an art market. Like, that's... Your product is amazing. Like, you have something special here, but it's not gonna work where you are. Like, and I said that to her straight up, and she was like, oh, well, where do you think I should go? And I was like, well, you know, like, you're the audience of this market are people my age. Personally, I cannot afford an $80 candle. Yeah. So you need to go somewhere that's going to be able to afford that. And I think that seems intuitive, but I think when you're first starting, everyone's just like, I need to get into every market that I ever, like, I see someone post it, I need to go.
But so true. I think it's been the theme of this episode, finding your people. Finding your crowd. It might take some time and effort and some footwork to really get to where you need to be. But before we go, I want everyone to kind of know where they can find more information about what you do and shout out what you're working on and everything that way.
I could look right into the camera. I think the best place to reach me is my Instagram, which is just at Creating Paisleys. I'm working on getting a website made. It's just taking a bit. But yeah, I am Salt Lake City local through and through. I go to a lot of concerts. I am always rock climbing. Like, I am deep into the city, into the realm of things. So if you see me, come say hi. I'll probably give you a sticker or whatever. But if you want to see me at markets, I usually post on my Instagram. Like I said, working on website. Yeah, that's kind of it.
Fair enough.
Easy.
That's Creating Paisleys at Instagram, correct?
Yes, on Instagram.
On Instagram.
Yeah, I'm not technical enough for TikTok or anything else, so just stick to Instagram.
No worries. Guys, this has been a great conversation. We really appreciate you coming down and just sharing your vulnerability of being an artist with us.
Thank you.
It is very inspiring, your whole story, your whole journey, and we really hope to see you continuing on and pursuing what you find your happiness.
Yeah.
But guys, if you guys enjoyed this show, please like, comment, subscribe. Let us know other local artists that you guys are out there with. Go support artists like Creating Paisley. If you're in the Salt Lake area, check out her Instagram. There is so many great talented people that we are going to have on this show and have great stories here like Paisley had. And well, guys, I guess we'll see you guys on the next episode, guys.
I don't know if I should.
Bye, guys.
Awkward wave.